Imagine a moment in your life when a command comes to you, not one that you can debate or postpone, but a demand simple in words yet immense in consequence. You must eat it before tomorrow, and by it. We are not speaking merely of bread or meat, but of the challenge, the responsibility, the burden, or the gift that God has placed before you. Perhaps it is an act of courage you have delayed, an apology you have postponed, a truth you have ignored. Whatever it is no trivial thing, and its time is now. We live in a world where procrastination is celebrated, where delay feels safe, and hesitation feels like wisdom. But this command, urgent and uncompromising, reminds us that life is measured not by the hours we waste, but by the obedience we render to the moment we are given. To eat it before tomorrow is to recognize that life does not wait. The opportunity to act, to embrace what is difficult, to accept what is necessary, will not linger indefinitely. There is a hunger in the soul that only fulfillment of duty, courage, and love can satisfy. When God says, "Eat it before tomorrow," He is telling us that we cannot afford to delay communion with reality, with truth, with the work that has been entrusted to us. There is an urgency, not of panic, but of purpose, a divine insistence that we confront what is ours, rather than leaving it to chance, or worse, to fear. Consider the bitter lessons of delay. A friendship left to fray because reconciliation was too uncomfortable, a calling ignored because the path was steep, a word of kindness withheld because vulnerability seemed unsafe. Each moment that passes without obedience hardens the heart and dims the soul. Yet to act, to eat it before tomorrow, is to reclaim life from hesitation. It is to step into the courage that God has long been preparing within us. Eating it is not about indulgence, it is about acceptance. It is the acknowledgement that life's sustenance, spiritual, moral, and emotional, comes not from avoiding difficulty, but from confronting it. It is the willingness to trust that what is asked of us is not arbitrary, but precisely the nourishment our hearts require. So do not wait until tomorrow. Do not bargain with fear or convenience. The moment is now, and it is sacred. Whatever burden, opportunity, or gift lies before you, consume it fully, as one does with bread that sustains life. In that act of obedience, you will find strength that you did not know you possessed, courage that will illuminate every shadow, and a peace that passes all understanding. God has spoken. He has given you the portion meant for this day. To delay is to starve your soul. To embrace it is to awaken to the life He intended for you. Eat it before tomorrow. There is a peculiar tension in the human heart between knowing what must be done and actually doing it. We see the path laid before us, clear in its direction, precise in its requirements, yet we hesitate. We postpone, we delay, and in that delay we invent reasons, excuses, and justifications. But God's voice does not recognize delay. When He says, "You must act now," there is no room for argument, no margin for negotiation, and no comfort in hesitation. Immediate obedience is not a matter of convenience. It is the very measure of our alignment with the divine purpose. It is the acknowledgement that time is not our own, and that the opportunities for growth, for courage, for love, and for transformation are fleeting and fragile. The moment we are given is a sacred gift, and to waste it is to misunderstand the gravity of our existence. Consider the nature of life itself. It is composed of moments, brief and irreplaceable, each one carrying the weight of eternity. When we delay, even for the smallest reason, we risk allowing these moments to pass unclaimed, leaving us with a haunting sense of what might have been. God's call to immediate obedience is not merely about completing tasks. It is about cultivating the discipline of attention, the courage to act, and the humility to recognize that we are not the architects of the universe. In obeying promptly, we acknowledge our place within a larger design, a design that demands participation, attentiveness, and moral engagement. There is also a profound freedom in immediate obedience. Paradoxically, acting without delay releases the mind from the prison of doubt and indecision. It prevents the heart from being consumed by fear, anxiety, or the endless weighing of consequences that often paralyze us. To obey immediately is to step into the rhythm of life as it was meant to be experienced, decisively, courageously, and fully present. It teaches the soul that divine timing is not a suggestion, but a framework within which true living occurs. Immediate obedience is, at its core, a form of trust. It is the willingness to act even when the path is uncertain, the results unclear, and the costs potentially high. It is the understanding that hesitation is a luxury we cannot afford, and that God's wisdom far surpasses our own. By responding at once, we affirm that our lives are not self-directed experiments, but offerings within a broader, purposeful design. We learn that true power is not in controlling outcomes, but in faithfully responding to what is set before us. In this way, the command to act now becomes a transformative principle, shaping character, fostering courage, and cultivating a heart attuned to the divine. Each moment obeyed strengthens the habit of responsiveness, of attentiveness to God's call, and of courage in the face of life's demands. The soul grows resilient, disciplined, and capable of embracing the fullness of life, not as a series of postponed duties, but as a sequence of immediate engagements, each one a step toward wisdom, virtue, and grace. Fear is one of the most insidious barriers between the soul and the life it was created to live. It is a quiet tyrant that whispers doubts, magnifies obstacles, and convinces the heart that delay, avoidance, or withdrawal is the safer path. Yet every moment that we allow fear to dictate our choices is a moment in which we abdicate our purpose and diminish the potential of our spirit. Confronting fear is not simply an act of courage. It is an acknowledgement that life is not measured by comfort or security, but by the integrity with which we respond to what is true, necessary, and demanded of us. God does not ask for timid gestures or cautious half measures. He calls for hearts willing to face what frightens them, to step into uncertainty, and to meet the challenge before them with resolve and trust. The nature of fear is often to exaggerate the danger before us. It whispers that failure is inevitable, that loss is unavoidable, and that our capacities are insufficient. But these whispers are not the voice of reality. They are the distortions that arise when we focus on ourselves rather than the task set before us. To confront fear is to shift attention from our perceived weakness to the greater strength that comes from obedience and engagement. In doing so, we discover that fear is not an immovable wall, but a gate that opens only when we dare to step through it. Each act of courage, however small, chips away at its hold, revealing a freedom that the timid soul cannot know and a peace that surpasses understanding. Confronting fear requires both honesty and humility. It demands that we recognize what frightens us without pretending it does not exist, and that we accept our limitations without surrendering to them. There is a grace in acknowledging fear, a humility in admitting vulnerability, and yet within this very act lies the paradox of courage. The more we face our fear, the more we are strengthened, the more our hearts expand, and the more our vision clears. Fear loses its dominion when met with deliberate choice, steady resolve, and the quiet confidence that the soul is not abandoned in the struggle. Moreover, confronting fear is inseparable from the pursuit of purpose. The tasks, responsibilities, and callings laid before us are seldom free from risk or discomfort. They demand that we act despite trembling, speak despite uncertainty, and move forward despite doubt. To refuse these moments because of fear is to turn away from life itself. To embrace them is to affirm that courage is not the absence of fear, but the commitment to act in its presence. In this commitment, we cultivate a heart attuned to truth, a spirit that is resilient under pressure, and a soul that finds its satisfaction not in avoidance, but in faithful engagement. Through the repeated choice to confront fear, the soul gradually learns that divine strength is made perfect in weakness, that light is brightest where darkness presses most, and that the most meaningful life is always found on the other side of apprehension. Each challenge faced, each hesitation overcome, each trembling step taken in faith becomes a testament to the possibility of transformation, a living proof that courage is a habit cultivated in moments of obedience, and a sign that fear, though powerful, is never stronger than the heart that chooses to act. Life is not a series of endless tomorrows. It is a fleeting procession of moments, each one charged with opportunity, responsibility, and significance. The urgency that God places upon us is not born of anxiety or haste, but of purpose, a divine insistence that we do not squander the time we are given. To live without recognizing this urgency is to drift in a slow acquiescence to inertia, to allow the currents of distraction and convenience to carry us past the moments that were meant to shape us, challenge us, and draw us closer to our true selves. Purposeful urgency is the discipline of attentiveness, the art of living fully present, the refusal to let what is necessary and vital slip by under the guise of delay. When God calls us to act without postponement, it is because the tasks He sets before us are rarely optional. They are not suggestions for the curious or the leisurely. They are mandates that intersect with the very health of our character, the destiny of our relationships, and the fulfillment of the life He intends for us. Each opportunity delayed is an opportunity diminished. Each moment wasted a small surrender to distraction, fear, or self-interest. In recognizing purposeful urgency, we begin to see that life is not measured by the quantity of hours we accumulate, but by the intentionality with which we inhabit them, the courage with which we embrace them, and the integrity with which we respond to them. There is also a profound moral dimension to urgency. The world presents us with 1,000 calls, some trivial, some vital, and the ability to discern and respond to what truly matters is itself a moral discipline. When we act promptly in matters of conscience, compassion, and courage, we align ourselves with the rhythm of divine timing. Hesitation, on the other hand, is not neutral. It is a form of moral compromise, a quiet surrender to the seductive power of delay, convenience, and self-preservation. In cultivating purposeful urgency, we train the heart to recognize the difference between the fleeting and the eternal, between what is urgent for the soul and what is merely pressing for the ego. Urgency also deepens our awareness of the consequences of inaction. The seeds we neglect today may wither, the words we withhold may wound, the opportunities we defer may never return. Time, unlike wealth or possessions, cannot be stored or reclaimed. Each moment allowed to slip by unclaimed is a moment that diminishes the potential of the life we were meant to live. God's insistence upon immediate engagement is thus a safeguard for the soul, a divine encouragement to inhabit life actively, responsively, and courageously, rather than drifting passively through its current. Finally, purposeful urgency is inseparable from hope. It is the conviction that the present moment, no matter how small or intimidating, carries within it the power to shape destiny, to transform character, and to bring about outcomes that resonate far beyond what we can see. The call to act now, to seize the moment, and to refuse delay is ultimately an invitation to participate in the creation of a life that is meaningful, enduring, and faithful to the purpose for which we were made. It is the heartbeat of a soul attuned to divine timing, a spirit willing to move decisively, and a life committed to the urgent pursuit of what truly matters. There is a subtle power in the act of acceptance, a strength that is often overlooked in a world that prizes resistance, defiance, and self-assertion. To accept is not to surrender in weakness, nor to retreat in fear. It is to recognize reality as it is, to confront what is given, and to embrace it with a mind and heart aligned with truth. God's call to acceptance is a call to wisdom, a recognition that some things lie beyond our control, yet within our hands is the responsibility to respond rightly. True strength emerges not from the futile struggle to bend circumstances to our liking, but from the courage to meet life squarely, to acknowledge what is before us, and to engage with it fully, with honesty, dignity, and trust. Acceptance requires a deep discernment of the difference between what can be changed and what cannot. Many lives are consumed by the battle against inevitability, by the stubborn insistence that the world should conform to personal desire. Yet, this resistance breeds frustration, bitterness, and weariness, while acceptance transforms challenge into opportunity, difficulty into character, and limitation into a canvas upon which virtue may be painted. To accept is to recognize that life's provisions, whether gifts, burdens, or lessons, carry within them a form of sustenance uniquely suited to the soul. By embracing what is presented, we find nourishment for growth, insight for understanding, and strength for perseverance. Moreover, acceptance is a form of courage. It is easy to resist the unwanted, to recoil from difficulty, or to deny responsibility, but it takes a brave and disciplined heart to meet reality with open eyes. In choosing to accept, we exercise moral courage, the willingness to stand firm in the presence of circumstance, to act decisively where necessary, and to submit to divine guidance rather than self-will. Acceptance is not passivity. It is a dynamic engagement with life's demands, a recognition that every challenge holds within it the potential to shape, refine, and elevate the soul. There is also a profound spiritual dimension to acceptance. It aligns the heart with the divine order, acknowledging that the universe is governed by wisdom beyond human understanding. In accepting what comes, we cultivate trust in a providence that sees beyond our limited perspective, allowing the heart to rest even amid uncertainty. This trust strengthens resilience, fosters patience, and nurtures a sense of peace that is immune to the turbulence of circumstance. Acceptance teaches the soul to discern the enduring from the transient, the essential from the trivial, and the meaningful from the superficial, and in doing so, it fosters a clarity of vision and a steadfastness of purpose that cannot be achieved through force or defiance. Finally, acceptance opens the door to transformation. It is the foundation upon which character is built, the soil in which courage, humility, and wisdom take root. By receiving what is given, whether joyful or difficult, we learn to respond rather than react, to shape our lives with intentionality rather than impulse, and to find strength not in domination but in harmony. The act of acceptance thus becomes a practice of profound power, a means by which the soul rises above resistance, embraces reality, and discovers that true strength is not the ability to control everything around us, but the grace to meet life fully, honestly, and faithfully. Faith, in its truest form, is not a quiet contemplation or a distant hope. It is action. It is the deliberate choice to move forward even when the path is unclear, to step into responsibility even when the outcome is uncertain, and to obey the call of God even when fear and doubt press upon the heart. Faith without action is like a lamp unlit, promising illumination but leaving the darkness unchallenged. To live faithfully is to translate belief into movement, thought into deed, and trust into courage, recognizing that every act undertaken in obedience carries within it the power to transform both the soul and the world. Action born of faith requires courage, for it often calls us into spaces of discomfort, uncertainty, and challenge. The heart may tremble, the mind may question, and the eyes may strain to see the path ahead. Yet faith is the force that compels the first step. It teaches that the measure of belief is not in private reflection, but in public engagement, not in idle prayers, but in the tangible expression of devotion through deeds. Every choice to act in accordance with divine guidance becomes a proof of trust, a declaration that one's life is not a matter of convenience or preference, but of obedience to the higher calling that transcends human understanding. Faith in action also requires patience and perseverance. Immediate results are not always visible, and the fruits of our efforts may take time to manifest, yet every faithful step contributes to the shaping of character and the fulfillment of purpose. The labor itself becomes a crucible in which the soul is refined, teaching humility, resilience, and steadfastness. In the silence between effort and outcome, faith continues to sustain, reminding the heart that divine timing is perfect, that every delay is purposeful, and that perseverance in action is itself a form of worship. Moreover, acting in faith strengthens discernment. As the believer engages with life's challenges and opportunities, choices become clearer, priorities sharpen, and the voice of conscience aligns more closely with divine wisdom. Faith is not blind. It is informed by experience, reflection, and an attentiveness to the guidance that God provides through circumstance, scripture, and conscience. Each action taken in faith reinforces the habit of discernment, enabling the soul to navigate complexity with clarity, courage, and moral integrity. Faith in action is transformative not only for the individual, but for those around them. Every act of obedience, courage, and moral engagement radiates outward, touching lives, shaping communities, and bearing witness to the reality of God's presence in the world. In this way, faith becomes both personal and communal, private and public, inwardly strengthening the soul while outwardly impacting the life of others. It demonstrates that belief is not an abstract principle, but a living force, capable of inspiring change, cultivating hope, and manifesting goodness wherever it is applied. Ultimately, faith in action is the bridge between the human and the divine, the link between promise and fulfillment, and the mechanism through which the eternal intersects with the temporal. It transforms uncertainty into opportunity, fear into courage, and doubt into commitment. It is the living expression of trust, the tangible proof of devotion, and the means by which a life becomes aligned with the purpose for which it was created. Through action inspired by faith, the soul discovers strength it did not know, courage it could not summon alone, and a depth of peace that comes only from walking faithfully in the path that God has set before it.